Welcome everyone to our final session for the day, where we will be discussing that long anticipated topic, heat pump curriculum development. I certainly hope that you've gotten a lot out of the other sessions that kind of segue into this topic. We'll probably kind of do a little referencing of those as well. But today I'm joined by Jamie Kono, who is a professional engineer and focuses on workforce development at Pacific Northwest National Lab. And next, Jeff Polk, who is the current director of the Energy Smart Academy at Santa Fe Community College. Jeff goes back a long ways with Best Center when he was an HVAC instructor at Central New Mexico Community College. They hosted actually one of our earliest workshops. So glad to see him back wearing a different hat. And then finally, I think many of you already know Eugene Silberstein, who, besides writing one of the most highly regarded textbooks on heat pumps, also tells jokes and does magic tricks. So very versatile gent, to say the least. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to leave us with hopefully almost 20 minutes of discussion if we can work that in. And Jamie, take it away.
All righty. Thanks, Larry. And Eugene, can you do some magic tricks during your presentation? I have not seen, I don't think I've seen any magic tricks. But anyway, yeah, maybe that's the next time we hang out in person. Okay, so thanks everyone for being here. I'm really happy to talk to you about workforce development as it relates to heat pumps, because that's kind of what I live and breathe. That feels like the most important thing to me. You can't put any heat pumps in if there aren't any people to put the heat pumps in. So you can go to the next slide, Larry. And we're going to be talking about some of the needs for workforce upskilling. I'm going to really breeze through that, show you some of the DOE open source curriculum that's available for training programs, as well as recognition by DOE to help distinguish training programs and get folks connected with various federal, local rebate incentives that are going around. As well as I got a bunch of other links that I think could be helpful that will all be available with this slide deck that you can download. Next slide. So the first thing, I guess, setting the stage, I've been working with at Pacific Northwest National Lab, a bunch of my coworkers and a bunch of other industry stakeholders, including Eugene, including folks at Santa Fe Community College, and Jeff, and just a bunch of people across the US looking at what are our workforce challenges, and particularly from my angle, how can the national labs and how can DOE support those challenges and support industry groups that are working on alleviating those. So, shortage of workers, skills gaps, especially for newer technology that may not be widely taught, and also within HVAC particularly, but across many building construction trades, understanding credentials and what's helpful for people that are looking to get upskilled or looking to enter the field. Thus, I'm going to go through a few of the items that DOE provides. Hopefully some of these will be useful to you, or perhaps you'll have some input for us on them. You can go to the next slide. First off, we've been working with industry stakeholders to create these skill standards. Don't read it too closely. It's the end of the day anyway. Your brain will hurt too much. But in the space of heat pumps, we worked with folks to identify not necessarily a comprehensive list of, or like a job task analysis of what people need to know for heat pump installation, but what are the really critical topics that are underrepresented, underskilled at the moment. And so looking at variable speed systems, cold climate applications, dual fuel applications, commissioning, that sort of topics. Next slide. So beyond that, then we have these skill standards to complement the skill standards. We have been putting together these resources. They're open source resources curated from a bunch of different organizations that have been willing to share their resources with the public freely, and yeah, covers some of these really important topics and helps a instructor, a training program that has very little time on their hands, very little extra time on their hands, quickly pull this type of content into their program. Also, we worked with, made this available to curriculum developers, like we've worked with Eugene on updating the refrigeration and air conditioning technology textbook with some of these topics. I don't think Eugene needs a whole lot of help with getting up to speed on these topics, but it's nice to have some additional resources to look at, or at least you can point the finger at some crazy people at the national labs for what they're doing at the moment, because cold climate application techniques are changing. ACCA guidance is changing. It's a interesting time with heat pumps. So next slide, we will talk about moving from a training program. Oh yes, no. Actually, I changed my mind. This is an example of the Building Science Education Solution Center. One of the pages, this is cold climate heat pump sizing. There are lecture notes. There are problem sets along with answers that are the answers are only available if you make a instructor account on our website. And there's PowerPoint presentations, as well as other resources that you can access. It's not meant to be the most glamorous of material. It's meant to be useful for you to pull in quickly into a training program, or for any instructors to pull into a training program. Okay, now on to the next slide. Once training programs or certifications have adopted, or if they already have these kind of skills being taught in their programs, we have this need to help clarify what credentials are helpful for people out there. How can we elevate existing programs that are doing really great work? And you'll hear from two of them later, from Eugene and Jeff, about how they're doing that. But we want to take all that and give them some recognition, help them to promote their program, how to integrate with federal incentives, especially Inflation Reduction Act, bipartisan infrastructure law incentives that are coming out, as well as this could also be appropriate for utilities, utility type structures when they're looking at implementing rebate programs. Next slide, please. So the energy skilled recognition, it's meant to recognize training programs and credentials that align with these critical heat pump topics or some other clean energy topics, heat pump water heaters, home energy audits, and coming soon, some envelope topics. What this means is we're recognizing a training organization, not an individual. It lets the training organization demonstrate their leadership, helps them with marketing. We've got them posted on our website, bsesc.energy.gov, which is my favorite website. I'm sure it will be too once you go to it. And also we've got kind of regular webinars and resources distributed to our community of organizations that are recognized as energy skilled. One more slide. We have, what does it mean for other people when it comes to energy skilled recognition? So like I said before, this is a recognition for training programs. However, because it's so important to, the actual work happens on an individual or a company level. So we've been working with the recognized training programs to highlight contractors whose employees have been hold some kind of energy skilled recognized credential. So if you send your employee Steve to the Energy Smart Academy's cold climate heat pump training course, they're recognized as energy skilled, and they'll send that information to us. We will send that information to Google, and then Google can highlight the specific contractors of the folks that have been through these training programs, if they opt into it, et cetera, et cetera. But that's something that's just very recently released. We're really excited about it. Hopefully we'll connect consumers to contractors in a way that gives them a little more guidance. We're also working with Energy Star on that kind of front as well. Let's go to the next slide, because I'm probably running a little over here. The one thing to let you know, currently, a lot of our resources and a lot of the recognition program are focused on residential, although my experience is that so many, when it comes to training, there's so much overlap between residential and commercial systems. So we've been focusing on, unitary systems, split systems, but we have some of my colleagues at PNNL are working on commercial focused resources, probably relating to heat pump RTUs, rooftop units, other packaged heat pump solutions, and just general HVAC maintenance, I think, maintaining that high performance HVAC. And also we're coordinating with a number of DOE programs. I'll mention this one in particular. There's a commercial heat pump accelerator that's going on that's working with, this is less on the workforce side. It's working with businesses that own commercial rooftop units and working with them on connecting them with heat pump rooftop units that can save them money and kind of equip them over the long run to meet whatever their climate goals are. And yeah, again, you're not going to be able to put any of those in if we don't have folks that are well equipped and ready to do so. So they've been working with stakeholders to identify what's the most kind of in demand upskilling need in the commercial sector as well.
Jamie, excuse me. I see that Bob Clark has raised his hand. So you
oh
got
yeah,
for Jamie?
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, go for it.
I see Eugene smiling. Now, I know you guys are pretty biased with your electrification stuff on the West Coast there, but because you don't live in the Midwest. But have you done any work, and are you being fair to the other companies that have been designing gas-fired heat pumps and bringing that absorber back? A company by the name of Anesi just dropped it off, and it's combined heat too with hot water. So they have a hot water application, and it's a gas-fired heat pump. Are you entertaining those, or are you just throwing in the trash because it doesn't have an electric pole attached to it? Do you like that? Did I say it clear enough?
Oh, that was great. I think really any highly efficient HVAC is on the table, especially ones that have kind of long-term, like put us on a good trajectory for long-term climate goals or long-term cost savings goals. So yes, on the residential side, we don't have a ton of content on gas-fired heat pumps, although I know they're around. we've got quite a bit of content on dual fuel applications and really, you know, whatever works, however we can get people with equipment that saves them money and is accomplishing efficiency and climate goals.
Jamie, we're going to be running our own test for that climate, and I'm going to link it to my house so when the furnace runs, it goes. So it'd be interesting to share that data with you. And I don't really care who wins, but somebody's gonna. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know. My email's on the end here, or yeah, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear how that goes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the big thing is for us, we're focusing on air source heat pumps in the residential sphere, electric fueled air source heat pumps, primarily because they're a readily available technology. I know there's efforts on more of the emerging technology side of things for more of those cutting edge ones. So I know that that's in people's scopes too. Yeah, thanks. Okay, I have one last slide here with a bunch of different resources that I'm hoping can be useful to folks, to either from the instructor side, the contractor side, advocacy side, whichever. We've got a recruitment toolkit. We've got some best practices on working with community-based organizations, especially, you know, pulling in people who wouldn't necessarily get into the HVAC field into this work, and got some resources on for, I think, particularly for contractors, but fits in really well with an kind of a classroom environment of just generally understanding home incentives and some tools that relate to quality install, heat pump and heat pump water heater installation. So obviously you can't click on those now through the screen, but they're all clickable links through the PDF that you can download through this. And with that, that's the end of it. I'm going to pass it off to Jeff, who is, you know, doing the real work here and updating curriculum. Yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Jamie, and want to just have a shout out to the Best Center folks. It's been years since I've seen some of your faces, and you haven't got a day older. I have. Yes. You see what higher ed does to the face here, and Eugene is proof of that. Somehow our colored hair turns gray and silver, but I blame higher ed. I'm sure it's some other reason. But
yeah, okay.
Anyway, yeah. So I appreciate the invite. Larry found me. I don't know how, but he found me out here in the high desert, and here I am doing what I love. And so I found myself at the Energy Smart Academy a little over a year ago. I was invited by some of the folks there to start creating a cold climate air source heat pump curriculum and build some trainers. And because I've been installing them as a mechanical contractor for the last 5 years since I left CNM as a credit side faculty member. And so I jumped all over the chance because I really did believe then, I do believe now, this is the next way to heat and cool buildings on an efficiency level. So that's kind of gives you the background of how I ended up at the Energy Smart Academy in Santa Fe. You can go ahead and advance the slide there. So basically how we came up with this was a team of 2 other experienced home energy professionals at the Energy Smart Academy who had some experience with the learning management system of Canvas, which Santa Fe Community College used. And they had some prior smaller courses had designed for other purposes. And so what we basically did is merge those courses into a cold climate air source heat pump big course that's technician, and its subtitle is literally a technician training, because we really wanted to go get the New Mexico mechanical contractors who were not presenting this as options to their clients, and really teach them, because I feel, being that I've been in the field so many years, I really feel that the issue, the missing gap in the middle was contractors not offering it due to just lack of trust or not educated on the product. So that was really the impetus to do this. And I'll show some pictures later of the trainers I built for the college that we're using in our class. But so the objective, as I touched on there, is to really reach out and go find these New Mexico contractors that are not offering the cold climate heat pump options as retrofits, new construction, system add-ons, stuff like that. You know, we're talking beyond the mini split thing and the sunroom add-on. That's a whole different ballgame. We're talking about whole house treatment here, but in my experience, like I said, it's speculation, of course, but lack of trust, prior bad experiences. You know, the old timers say, "Oh, those heat pumps from the '70s, they were no good. Heat pump technology's trash." Well, welcome to the new days, and technology has advanced so far, and we'll talk about that later as well. But so the model we ended up with in our course at Energy Smart Academy is a hybrid model. And so the students who are HVAC experienced people of different degrees will take on 8 hours of online content and self-paced through the Canvas learning management system. And it's just various lessons going through design, sizing, install, all kinds of things. And then there's a troubleshooting module, various videos, some other content that I've used in my professional career. And they're quizzed throughout the 8 hour. It's about an 8 to 10 hour experience for the student. And then when they complete that online content after work, at home, then they would message the instructor, which happens to be me, saying, "Hey, I've completed the online content. I'll go ahead and grade the online content." And then we schedule them for their in-person training day. And when they complete that in-person training day, then they've earned their certificate for completing the cold climate air source heat pump class. And it's worked out pretty good. We just started launched the classes in the fall. And we've got, we'll go ahead and advance a slide there, Larry. We'll show some pictures here real quick. We've, of course, here's a photo of a couple of students. I had built up a working, rolling room-to-room model of it's a 120 volt mini split. And so the students will go through there, very simple training lab, and they'll go, check the wiring, run the unit in heating, cooling, and do some basic checks just to become familiar with the technology. Go ahead and advance the slide there, Larry. We implemented some smart tool diagnostics. Here's some students are evaluating pressures and temperatures in the lab as the system that's behind them is operating. This happens to be the Fieldpiece JobLink using an older tablet. Of course, there's a bunch of different smart tool diagnostic options out there. This just happened to be the one that was readily available at the local parts house, and we could afford to get started, which has turned out to be a very cool tool for the students who don't get to touch this kind of stuff in the field in their normal day-to-day jobs. And so it really has opened some eyes to some techs like, oh, this changes my world, so it's kind of cool stuff. Go ahead and advance this slide there. And we don't ignore the basics. We've got a wide range of students going through this cold climate air source heat pump class. And so the trainer in the background there is a Carrier dual fuel setup that I built that actually fits through a 3x8 door. So we can literally roll it room to room, lab to lab. And so the students got real good experience seeing how that dual fuel works. Now, this picture is just showing that we're not ignoring the basics in this class. That part of the lab assignment that the packet includes with the students is, hey, guess what? Check the air filter before you do anything to this machine. And we're just trying to instill that regular practice of the techs, like, hey, don't overlook the simple things. It could be affecting the performance of the system. And so that's what this picture is showing here. But go ahead and advance the slide. So progress thus far. We are DOE Energy Skill recognized, which that was a wonderful score sheet, by the way. If anyone from DOE is listening, it really showed us where we had some holes to fill in our course. And so it was really an enlightening document beyond just trying to get, enough points to get energy skilled. We also locally here in New Mexico, we earned this course is worth 8 hours of CEUs for New Mexico licensed journeymen in the mechanical trades. And so in our state, a licensed journeyman per license renewal cycle needs 16 hours of CEUs, and it's mandated that 8 of those hours have to be codebook related. Well, I was able to secure this course, even though it's a 16-hour course. A licensed journeyman can turn in credit for at least its non-codebook related 8-hour CEUs for this course as well. So that's kind of a nice little feather in the cap that they can take away and feel like they've spent their time, a worthwhile effort. Again, this is a hybrid course, started in the fall of 2024. Took about 6 months of in-house development to get that curriculum ready. That does not include the time it took me to literally build those operating trainers, which you'll see pictures of in the next couple slides. That's strictly the curriculum development that the student's going to see as they interact with the learning management system. But our out-of-pocket pricing right now, we've priced it at $4.99 for the course. I think that's from what I'm seeing, that's higher than some of the remote online only offerings out there. But the position that we took when we priced this is, we were comparing pricing we have at other weatherization, energy efficiency courses that we offer through Energy Smart Academy. And also the thinking here is to establish a higher value for that hands-on in-person training day with actual working equipment. And so we're still kind of playing with that price point, but we'll kind of see as time goes on in 2025 how that price point is received for the out-of-pocket technician that's going to pay for it. So far, we've served 21 students through this course in the fall of 2024. And we're really treating it as an upskill opportunity. And that's really the mindset I've taken from the get-go since I was invited to create this cold climate air source heat pump class for Energy Smart Academy. It's truly an upskill because I think that's where we're lacking. The consumer is educated about this type of product. The manufacturers have it ready, and the gap in the middle is the contractor. And so that's kind of the idea there. But we are lucky here in New Mexico. Our dean was able to secure us some tuition waivers, if you will, some financial assistance for students. And it's being funded through New Mexico Workforce Appropriation Fund. So basically, New Mexico residents are able to, we were able to waive that $4.99 fee, at least for the first 50 students. That's how much budget I was allotted in this Workforce Appropriation Fund. And so we're going to get to that 50 students probably by the end of June at this rate. So we're pretty excited. It's a really good, I'm considering a soft launch, but tons of potential for this course moving forward. Go ahead and advance the slide. So there it is. Our goal is 50 trainees by June at our Energy Smart Academy Training Center in Santa Fe. Always have students doing post-course surveys after the hands-on training day and interviews, which kind of drives the improvements in the course, right? I mean, we might talk about this later in the presentation, but one of the things I saw early on with some of the first couple of cohorts that came in for the hands-on day was they would rather see this a 2-day in-person live class instead of the online hybrid portion. So that was a curious piece of advice I took as the instructor and the developer of this course, that they'd rather see that thing 2 days live. At any rate, some other things we've got in the hopper. I also built a heat pump water heater trainer, and we have a half-day retrofit class built and ready to deliver in person. That's an in-person half-day class for skilled mechanical tradesmen in the state. And I'm hoping to get that DOE Energy Skill recognized this late winter, early spring. So, and there's a picture of that, I think, coming up soon too. Go ahead and advance the slide there, Larry. So there's a picture of the trainers that I had custom built. These are one-offs, and I literally hit the streets, boots on pavement, to local manufacturer reps, supply houses in Albuquerque, and I said, "Hey, here's what we're doing. I need some equipment. I need your best cold climate air source heat pump your brand makes." And so Mitsubishi was donated. The upper left picture is all electric cold climate air source heat pump Mitsubishi system. Then the upper right is my friends now at the Carrier House were able to donate a 38 MURA heat pump and a 2-stage 80 furnace. Set up a pretty cool trainer there. Keeping in mind, our utilities here in New Mexico, gas is dirt cheap. And so the sell from a contractor to a homeowner to tell them, hey, here's what you got to do. Go all electric heat pump. And people look at you like, you are crazy, man. That furnace has been in that closet for 40 years and I've never even opened the door and looked at it, right? And so that's another battle we're fighting here in the local market is the quick furnace change out. And so that's something we got to address long term. But the picture on the bottom is the heat pump water heater trainer, a plumbing house in town that's a state rep. They were able to secure this 120 volt heat pump water heater, 50-gallon model for me. So we built that. That's a working model, by the way. We can roll that anywhere and plug it into any wall, shared circuit, 15 amp. I have a water reservoir and a pumping system underneath that laboratory base, and that thing will run hot water all day long at conventions and demonstrations. It's a great training device. Can't wait to put that into use for these half-day retrofit classes. But that's turned out to be a really cool training device. And all these trainers fit through 3068 doors, so they can move lab to lab. We've actually hauled them to Albuquerque a couple times to display them at the electrification event last April and also Earth Day. So kind of a cool thing we got. It's a nice complement to the hands-on portion of our training. That's all I had, Larry. I don't know if there's any questions or wait till the end, but
Yeah, we'll try to save them at the end. And yeah, I think we'll probably have a bunch, but yeah, very cool trainers. I especially like the one at the bottom with the water heater. And now, take it away, Mr. Eugene. I also want to mention that Eugene is National Programs Director for HVAC Excellence. Again, one of our other longtime sponsors of this event. Take it away, sir.
Awesome. Yeah, so I just wanted to, I'll be relatively brief. For Eugene, that could mean 2 hours, but I'll try and be extremely brief. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about our high performance heat pump course. And Clifton is in the room as well. And he spearheaded this project at our organization. So he's the one that basically got the plane off the ground, flew the plane, and actually got the plane back on the ground safely. So we're really happy that he's here and he, like I said, spearheaded this program. But whenever we at ESCO create content, we do that based on what we call our competency and task list. So if you can advance the slide, Larry, please. So our competency and task list is really a series of 16 Excel spreadsheets that we've created in conjunction with industry partners. And it basically organizes and categorizes basic knowledge areas and the skills that an individual would need to possess to gain employment or to be successful in any one of a number of areas in our industry. So the purpose of the competency and task list is really to help instructors determine if the training they're offering is checking all the boxes as indicated by the industry. So the competency and task list is really, really important. And a lot of industry publishers, including Cengage, Goodhart Willcox, have crosswalked their publications, such as, my refrigeration and air conditioning technology title is crosswalked to ESCO's competency and task list. So an instructor can go to the publisher's website, pull up these crosswalks and say, okay, if I'm going to train my students on heat pumps, for example, they can go through the competency and task list and see exactly where each of those competencies are covered in each of the books. Like I said, Cengage does it, GW does it, other main publishers do it. So when ESCO takes on any project, it all revolves around the competency and task list. So if we can go ahead and just hop to the next slide. So our high performance heat pump course, which is energy skill recognized, by the way, is broken down into 10 chapters, and it gets into the fundamentals of heat pumps, talks about inverters. It's so funny. I speak to instructors now, like, oh, well, we're teaching new generation heat pumps, but we don't have any time to talk about inverters. Well, they're kind of one and the same. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. But the course talks about ducted systems, ductless heat pump systems, gets into definitions of cold climate heat pumps, installation, commissioning, starting, troubleshooting. So, I mean, that's pretty much where the course is. And as I mentioned, it is energy skilled, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the next 4 slides, Larry, if you could just go through the next 4 slides and just spend on each one like maybe 4 or 5 seconds. I'm not going to go through all of the objectives of the course, but this is a list of the objectives that are tackled on as part of this heat pumps course. All right. So like I said, it's the next 4 slides. I'm not going to read these to you. You will have access to a PDF of the whole presentation. But the list of objectives that are tackled and covered in this program are really, really it's pretty intense. Now, obviously, any heat pump course, or it does assume a certain amount of basic knowledge. And when we look at our task and competency list specifically for heat pumps on the next slide, Larry, you'll see that we actually assume that a student does have prior general air conditioning and refrigeration knowledge. Heat pumps are an advanced topic in our industry. So on that specific spreadsheet for heat pumps, like I said, there are over 100 line items that students need to address. And there is a section, like I said, I'm not going to go through the entire list. It's 100 line items. But airflow was mentioned earlier. The importance of airflow, just basic heat transfer, latent heat, sensible heat, the basics are assumed that a student has that prior knowledge before they embark on a heat pumps course, and that's any heat pump program. So they need to be able to demonstrate proficiency. They need to be able to show that they can do certain things, which is why I was really excited about the program that Jeff was, just speaking about, the fact that it has this retained knowledge component, but it also has this hands-on element where you're actually being required to demonstrate that you can do what you say you can do. So as far as our heat pump competency and task list goes, the always safety issues, system troubleshooting, problem solving, tool and instrumentation use, especially with new generation heat pumps. The instrumentation that we are relying on are higher tech tools, smart diagnostic tools, tools required to properly commission, start up, and put these systems into operation. And what's really exciting about the heat pump competency and task list is when the energy skill recognition program was being launched, we spent a lot of time working with Jamie Kono and her team, and they helped us modify and revise our task and competency list. So if you can just hop to the next slide, Larry. So if you go to our website at escogroup.org, you can click on the task and competency list. It's not something that's hidden behind a firewall. You don't have to log in. But everything that's on the task and competency list that's in green was a direct result of the Energy Skilled Initiative, which helped us improve the quality of what's going on. So when we went from SEER to SEER 2 ratings, talking about variable speed compressors, and the list goes on and on. Like I said, you're all going to have access to the PDF of the entire presentation from this afternoon. So I know you can read probably a lot better than I can, so I'm not going to read for you. But everything that's highlighted in green, and I pulled those items and put them in this presentation, are the items that specifically that Jamie Kono and her team helped us, put together to modify our competency and task list. So the next slide goes into to more of those items. But I did just want to take a minute and just talk specifically about the course. So on the next slide are the nuts and bolts of the high performance heat pump course. So it's intended for students, apprentices, practicing technicians. Again, a certain degree of prior knowledge on, heat transfer, airflow, things like that is assumed. The cost, $59.95, and that will take roughly 6 to 8 hours to complete. And what's neat about the course is, in order to unlock subsequent sections of the course, you have to complete the previous section. So you have to go to section 1, you have to answer questions, you have to show that you have some retained knowledge or enough retained knowledge to move on to the next section. And then once you complete all 10 chapters, then you will have a link to a form that you'll fill out. And once you complete that form, that will be submitted to the folks over at PNNL, and you'll be included as energy skilled. So this course does qualify an individual to become energy skilled. So if a student or a technician is working for a specific contractor, and a technician tells his boss, listen, I am going to seek out this credential, which is going to get us listed on Google searches, it's quite, it's not a stretch to say that the employer would be more than willing to spend the $60 to help get their technician energy skilled recognized, because that will help enhance their advertising and customer base as well. And I'm assuming Jeff is exploring similar options as well. Means to have contractors pay for their technicians to get skilled. Right now, the program is in English. What's nice is it's online on demand, so your pace on your time. Clifton in the chat just posted, so we are giving free access to the first 2 chapters of this program, and the link is in the chat. So if you're interested in that, definitely hop on that. If you have an ESCO subscription, an all-access subscription to our e-learning platform, this high performance heat pumps course is part of that subscription. So if you have it, like I said, an all-access subscription to our e-learning platform, you have access to this. If you have a school and you want to make it available to your students, this is a product that can be licensed through us, that we can load onto your individual learning management system at your institution. If you're a contractor and you're looking to get your technician certified, you can reach out to us, because we do have bulk pricing for the course. So it really is, as it's been said a number of times, it's an upskilling opportunity. It's really helping contractors let the homeowners know that they have employees working for them, technicians working for them, that have become upskilled. And whenever I talk about energy skilled, I always talk about the ASE program in the automotive industry. It was a consumer facing program where consumers were going to their auto mechanic saying, I need my transmission work done. Do you have ASE certified technicians employed at your garage to work on my transmission? And what we're seeing, and what we'll hopefully continue to see, is consumers contacting contractors saying, I need my system swapped out. I want to go to a new generation heat pump system. Do you have technicians that are employed by you that are energy skilled? So it's following a very similar model to the ASE program. So anyway, the last slide is the best one. You can learn about the heat pumps course here. I meant the second to last slide, but that is a link to the high performance heat pump. Like I said, Clifton provided the link to the to access for the first 2 chapters. The next slide is really my favorite one, and that gives you access to us. So my email address is eugene@escogroup.org. You can call our office at 1-800-726-9696. And everything we spoke about, you can find at escogroup.org. My direct number, which I try to answer as infrequently as possible, is 224-248-9462. And I told you I was going to be brief. We just wanted to make sure we had enough time to address some questions from you guys, because you guys are the ones with the cool questions. As long as your name's not Bob Clark, feel free to ask anything you want.
That's good. Good one.
I'm kidding, Bob. You can ask questions.
Exactly.
I won't talk about saturation.
All right. Well, thank you, all three of you, for that wealth of information. I'd say there's certain a number of training and educational options on the table that you've discussed. I know that we already prepared a few questions for kind of the panel discussion. I want to take a quick look at the chat here as well. So let's kind of take a.
There weren't any questions in there, Larry.
Okay, good. Thank you for previewing that for me, Ted. Yeah. So, well, one thing before we get into more of a group discussion, Jamie, I was very curious about that that course on HVAC business development, right? And could you speak a little bit about kind of what the kind of was the driving motivator there, and maybe who also contributed to the creation of that?
Yeah, definitely. So as we just recently, the past few months, released these 2 business development training modules, one focused on heat pumps and one focused on heat pump water heaters. And really the impetus behind that was we're talking about we've got all this new technology that's out there, but these technologies are all part of businesses, and to work with, very risk averse contractors that need to that can't spend a lot of time experimenting or spending a lot sending their employees for lots of training, like this, making the case for how a contractor can utilize heat pumps in their business. When we've talked with a bunch of folks who have done so and been very successful. So after kind of poking around for a bit, we worked with Earth Advantage here. They're located, do a lot of work in the Pacific Northwest, and they created these 2 modules for us. I'm sure, it's tricky creating a nationally relevant resources that are relevant across the US, because of course utility rates are different, climate limitations are different everywhere, but trying to get at least the basis of that out to instructors, to entrepreneurs, to really anyone that might be helping HVAC businesses embrace heat pumps or utilize incentives more. That also complements some of the, and I saw this in the chat from Colleen, our tax credits and future rebates included. So we have a module that corresponds to this on general tax, not tax incentives, incentive training, home energy incentive training. Of course, every state, every utility has a different way of implementing incentives, but the idea of just getting folks least familiar, that module we have is actually meant to be more contractor facing. It's still not going to be as fancy as as the stuff that like folks at ESCO or at SFCC come up with, but it's yeah, meant to be.
Yeah, no, I think I mean, it makes perfectly good sense that workforce demand is tied directly to consumer demand, right? So, and you might be interested to know, a couple of days ago, I had a conversation with a local employee at a union shop, and he's felt that one of the things really kind of missing for him is a class on developing business skills, because he's already involved somewhat in sales, right? And then it's kind of learning or giving technicians an opportunity, a way to advance towards management, right? So that's certainly a discussion we could have offline later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, kind of opening things up here. If no one has their hands raised with a burning question, I kind of want to go back to something that Jeff said earlier, that hey, there were a lot of people, a lot of contractors who might have been dismissive about heat pumps based on their memories of the old 70s technology. So why don't we kind of talk about what have been kind of the major innovations to get us to where we are now with heat pumps? And any of you can jump in on that.
I'm gonna chime in for 2 seconds really quickly, because when I published my first heat pump book back in 2000, and I presented my father with a copy of it, and my father has been in the HVAC industry for 50 years. And he looked at the book, and he used words that I will not use on this session right now, but I'll paraphrase nicely. And he says, "Son, why would you write a book on heat pumps? All a heat pump is an air conditioning system with a reversing valve in it." So he paraphrased his his expressions were a little more animated than mine, and his language was a little more creative than that. But a lot of four-letter words. And after his little rant, I said, "Dad, I think maybe you should buy the first copy." I was going to take my copy back and say, maybe you should actually buy it. But if you look back at heat pumps, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they had two speeds. They had on and off. They were operating at either 100% or 0% capacity, depending on whether they were powered or not. And heat pumps did not have a great reputation for a number of reasons. It wasn't always the equipment. We had to make certain that the heat pump was sized correctly. We had to make certain the heat pump was installed correctly. We had to make certain that it was charged correctly. We had to make certain we had proper airflow. So I always gave an example. If you look at Manual J design temperatures, when I was growing up on Long Island, we were designing for 85-degree outside air temperatures for the summer, and indoor design temperatures are 75 degrees. So we were pushing heat in the summer against 10 degrees, which is not difficult to do. So if the system wasn't sized right, if it wasn't installed right, if it wasn't charged right, if it didn't have proper airflow, it would still cool the house. But now if you look at the same system in the winter, we were designing for 15 degrees outside with a 70-degree indoor temperature. Now we're asking that same heat pump system to push heat against 55 degrees. So any deficiencies in system sizing, system installation, airflow, system charging are going to be magnified by 5.5 times. So it's not that the heat pump system didn't work. It's, the way we sized it, the way we installed it, the way we charged it. So having those older systems have two speeds on and off. Now fast forward to our heat pump systems that are inverter control, where systems will ramp up and ramp down to match the needs of the structure. Just think about the tools we're using to install and troubleshoot and evaluate and commission our systems. We're using smart tools. We're not using analog gauges anymore to make certain our systems are installed right. So we're using a lot of high-tech instrumentation to properly start up and commission high-tech appliances. So they're definitely not heat pumps of 30 and 40 years ago. I'm done. Dang.
Yeah.
I'll maybe add just a little bit to that, is that like heat pumps in many areas, because of utility rates and because of that low efficiency level at colder temperatures, meant that like it was way cheaper to run a natural gas furnace than a heat pump for heating. And of course, that differs greatly across the US, depending on your utility, depending on whether you live near natural gas infrastructure, because delivered fuels will be so much higher. But yeah, there's some analysis out there that's showing that something like 30+% of US households would like benefit financially from having a heat pump as opposed to a gas furnace. And something like only 10% of those have heat pumps right now. So you're talking about quite a bit of a shift. It's not, rainbows and unicorns where I'm saying everywhere you're gonna, have a excellent ROI for installing a heat pump. But for many contractors where the customer price point is the driving factor, I think that's a really important bit of information that is not well known. And yeah, that's partially due to the technology changing, that you can put in a cold climate heat pump. It's partly due to utility rates changing. And it's a bit of a technical thing, it's a bit of an economic thing, but it all boils down to that, like, this is things have changed a lot since Eugene's dad used colorful language to describe his first heat pump book.
Well, and to tag on to what Eugene's saying about his dad, I mean, the fundamentals back then have not changed in design and install and commissioning. If you take care of those details, even these new fancy high-tech systems, they will do what you wanted them to do, as long as you've checked those boxes of, fundamentals in design and install. And so, and one thing I wanted to say about dual fuel is it's really kind of the beautiful merging of technology, and especially like in my market here, we've got some microclimates. We're at the southern tip of the Rockies, so you can be in a 100-degree desert in an hour south of me, but you can be up in 9,000 foot elevation within an hour's drive. And so we have these microclimates we're dealing with here, and like I said earlier, cheap gas. And so we see that dual fuel is a really good option. And in our class, we're teaching balance points, mostly thermal balance points, but I also introduced the economic balance points because of that utility rate function and that calculation. Like, okay, look, here's a situation where these people are rural and they've got propane. Dual fuel is great, but guess what? Your balance point is different then, because you just paid $3 a gallon for that propane. You didn't pay a couple of dimes for a therm of natural. And so it's really a microeconomic thing and a microclimate thing when you're talking about the real nitty gritty of these. And so,
well, going back to a presentation from this morning, talking about heat pumps tied with thermal energy storage, right? Again, we're hearing, hey, cost of gas definitely is a consideration, right? Versus all electric, right? Do you think that perhaps there is overemphasis on air-to-air heat pumps, and that according to his argument, right? That perhaps we ought to be looking more at air to water heat pumps to make, again, an all electric system more competitive.
Well, a couple things, and it all depends. You know, if you're talking new construction, I think air to water installs are fantastic. But in my market, again, the Albuquerque Santa Fe area, most of the work being done is retrofit in homes that were built in the 70s and 60s. And so you have a ducted system that may or may not be sealed, may or not be insulated in a drop down ceiling in the hallway. And that's really where the needs to be, needs are to be addressed in that system. So you've got you've got a hallway mechanical room with a furnace and a water heater sitting there. And so it's a hard sell to start with to go to high efficiency heat pump for that client, but much less talk about air to water, just blowing them out of the sky there. And so it's just so specific to the client and the region and the microeconomic situation to see what's the applicable system,
Yeah, just to put a dot on that one, I definitely mirror Jeff's sentiment on air to water. I am a big fan of air to water, and just like he said, for a new install, awesome.
Mhm.
Retrofit, it's hard to justify the cost of the retrofit over time. But yeah, for new installs, for new projects, we would spec air to water all the time.
Also adding, because I often have my kind of residential applications or like small building applications hat on for large building commercial, there's this huge demand, retrofit or new for air to water heat pumps. And we're just kind of figuring that out because making 180-degree supply hot water is pretty tricky with the heat pump, and you're not going to get very good COPs. And so then we get this is the type of thing that gets me excited because I spent 5 years as a commercial energy auditor before I joined PNNL. And so the creative solutions of, are we switching to like medium temperature water loops with water to water heat pumps in them, or water to air heat pumps throughout? Are we switching to bigger coils as we go along, picking up the natural replacement of systems? There's a lot of creative options out there for HVAC nerds. Of course, the more creative you get, the more tricky it becomes, the more pricey and what's the word I'm looking for? Custom they become. So yeah, it's a tricky question.
Well, Jamie, all we have to do is look at Europe. Europe heats buildings with 100-degree water. They don't turn their pumps off. They're constantly circulating water. They don't have the air problems in hydronic systems that we have circulating water.
Mhm.
We end up with air problems in water loops when we turn pumps on and off. So Europe looks at us like we're crazy because we turn pumps off and we heat water to 180 degrees. Like I said, they heat the largest buildings with 95 and 100-degree water. So yeah, if we look at Europe, then and we follow their lead, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good excuse for a field trip. Okay. Well, I know we are past 2 p.m. Pacific, but for any who want to stay on, you're welcome to do so. I think we've got a question from Robin. So, Robin, if you want to unmic yourself, go right ahead.
Thanks, Larry. One of the things that I always think when we're talking about these things, and I love the details and how we're going, how we're moving, it's always important to remember where we're going and what the time frame is we're going at. So, this idea of the microeconomics in New Mexico, it's also the difference in climate and what you're trying to do, not only in terms of temperature, but in terms of humidity. So I think that it's really important for us to always, and everybody else may be thinking about this in the back of their mind all the time anyway, and since I'm not involved with it as much as I used to be, I may be having to force myself to do it, but, you know, and also looking at what, you know, if you're putting in something with a 20-year lifespan, what are the changes in economics going to be? You can't predict what the changes in energy costs are going to be. We've been predicting that energy costs are going to change, that we're going to have higher energy costs for fossil fuels for a number of years, and it has not happened. We're lower energy prices for fossil fuels than ever before. So it's like you have to remember the direction. That's all.
Big time.
Right, anyone else have a burning question out there? I know among those that we had prepared, there's this issue about what challenges do training programs encounter when updating their curriculum. All right, and I know Jeff's already gotten some feedback from his first cohort and all, and Eugene and Jamie, right? What are some of the things that you're hearing from industry and various stakeholders?
Well, there's a challenge that schools and programs are facing whenever they try and incorporate something new. A training program used to be almost twice the size they are now. You know, you can get an associate's degree now in, 1,600 hours, but teachers are always looking for more and more time to teach what they need to teach. So when we're asking teachers to teach new concepts and add new things into their curriculum, the pushback, or not the push, but the question we get all the time is, well, what do I need to take out of my program to put this in? So we're being asked to teach more and more in less and less time. And it's always this neat little joke about, I have a few doctors in the family, and my cousin, one of them's a general practitioner. So what does a general practitioner do? They learn less and less about more and more. As there become more things to learn about, they learn less and less about more and more until they know nothing about everything, which is not a good thing. And then I have another cousin who's a specialist. So she learns less and less about more and more until she knows everything about nothing. And that's bad too. So it's actually kind of interesting. Like I said, the main pushback we get is, if you want me to teach this, and this, you want me to add this to my program, what do I need to take out? And then anytime you change curriculum, some schools, you need to go to the state, you need to submit paperwork and do curriculum changes. It's a challenge. But being that we're already teaching heat pumps, it's really not as far a stretch as an instructor might think. You're teaching heat pumps, so you might change an objective or two. So you won't have to go so far as to making submissions to the state, because you're not making major changes to the curriculum. But what I do suggest is, when you do hold your program advisory meetings, get the blessing of the members of that committee, so you at least you have something in writing saying, listen, the industry says we need to be teaching this and we're incorporating it. This way you have a paper trail in case something comes back to potentially bite you in the future. Just document everything and get the blessing from the people who your program is intended to serve. The contractors that are hiring your program completers, again, get buy-in from them, and that's a lot easier.
Larry, I had a question.
Please.
Yeah. Would we be able to get the specs for the lab equipment, Jeff, that you were showing?
I saw your question. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can reach out to me via email, and I can share the experience and the process I went through. These are one-offs, you see, but they could be easily be duplicated, and I could give you the basics of what I was trying to create, and what they ultimately, the purpose they're serving. But Yeah, absolutely. Just reach out to me in my email. Phone number was at the last page of my portion of the presentation as well. Just give me a ring.
Thank you.
You bet.
I also want to say that I am not an expert in this by any means, but I've seen, maybe they're at a very high price point, but I've seen you can buy like pre-made trainers that include I think these variable speed heat pump systems. So that might be an option, you know, obviously like
Sure.
yeah, you're typically working with a group of people that are the best equipped to make one from scratch.
Yeah.
But
And some of those prefab trainers, I mean, I taught with them for years at CNM in the credit side. In this case, we wanted the most realistic equipment that because our students are HVAC technicians, right? For this particular course, like we want them to have their hands on and experience what they're actually going to see in the field instead of a prefab factory trainers with all the switches and the lights and the dings and all the bells, and so that was kind of, but yeah, absolutely for basic beginner level stuff, these prefab trainers, fantastic.
And they are expensive.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
I believe that, yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why Hampton and was the Amatrol can pay for those happy hours at HVAC Excellence, right,
There
Eugene?
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jamie also wanted to kind of point you to Bob Clark. His his lab was built by his students, right? With him as their drill sergeant, of course, but they built their own.
Yeah, yeah.
Bob, you're quiet. I don't know what to say. God.
We got our VRF system all set up and all these other heat pumps. But I think it's very important for HVAC educators in America to let the world know that if 58% of the power in the world that's generated is done by natural gas at an efficiency rating at 30% in most cases, 55% in some other cases, and then transmitted across a grid, which is more irresponsible, that finally makes its way to the heat pump at the home. When in all actuality, you could have just burnt natural gas at 95 to 97% efficiency. That is a consideration, an ethical consideration. I know the word ethical isn't used in academics or politics anymore, but I think it's something that all people should adhere to, the reality of the finite resources for our children and the sustainability of the world, America.
Mic drop.
Tell us what you really
Yeah.
think, Bob.
Yeah, I heard the thud. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, this has been a very rich discussion. Thank you so much, everyone.
Really appreciate it.
I figured since it was at the end of the day, it didn't hurt to let it run a bit longer and all. But if you have any other questions, please follow up with any of our presenters. And Best Center is definitely going to become knocking on PNNL's door about energy skilled curriculum.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I want to say I was bugging someone recently about that. About the high performance building operators. Is that best?
Yeah.
Now I'm all confused. Yeah. I was harassing someone about it. I forget who. It wasn't you, Larry. It wasn't you, Peter. Anywho, but yeah, definitely. And I encourage any other folks, share that around, reach out if you have any questions. Yeah, happy to chat more.
Terrific.
Thanks, everybody. This was
Well, with that, yeah, we look forward to seeing any or all of you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern.
all right, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Right. Take care.
Had a great time.
Bye, everybody.
Jeff, take care.